Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Oracle Reiki Spiritual Healer. And today we are talking about familiar spirits. And so anytime that I've gone somewhere to remove or clear out negative spirits, and I can tell the difference before when I came up on the land or in the place, the environment, and the air felt heavy and oppressed, and I felt oppressed by something negative. So when that happens, I automatically start praying. And I automatically know that there are familiar spirits that is attached to these places. People do not really understand what I mean when I say familiar spirits. So we have to understand what the Holy Word says. The holy books, both holy books talks about spirits and familiar spirits. The Holy Quran talks about the jinns, spirits, Al-Jinn, the spirits. It talks about in Surah, I think it's 72. Hold on, let me see. 72, 8 through 11, how the jinns try to, break into the heavens and steal information, from the assembly of God. And it talks about the jinns are talking and giving their account, saying that they follow divergent paths, that some of them are good and some of them are not good. So we have to understand that these negative entities, when they are attacking, then we might not be able to see them. But if you are in tune as a chosen one, you can understand when you are around a negative person, a negative place. You can feel the oppression, in any air where your presence isn't light. So these familiar spirits, just like I say, even last night as I pulled over, in order to come into Virginia, in order just over Virginia, we need to understand. I make sure that I pray before I go to sleep. I make sure that I do dhikr before I go to sleep. And I want to make sure that we have that kind of connection with God so that we can understand when something isn't right in our vicinity. So, I plugged up everything as I went to sleep. I made sure that everything is in proper order. All my paperwork, they're in proper order. And so when I woke up this morning at 3 a.m., then it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous because my phone had not charged. So, and as I tried to charge my phone, and this is the phone that I use, to talk to you guys and shoot my videos, I have my laptop. But this is the phone that I use to shoot my videos. The phone wasn't charged. There were problems with the phone charging. There were problems with the phone charger. So there was a shortage in the phone charger. And you have to understand, when you are being attacked by familiar spirits, this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about the spirits, the familiar spirits. You have to understand that those entities can be attached to you, and you have to cleanse those negative energies, especially by being in places where you cleanse a negative place. You have to make sure that if that entity cannot attack you, then it's going to attack something, because it wants to enter somewhere, and it wants to break your spirit so that it can enter somewhere. It wants you to associate something with God so it can enter your spirit. So that's why in the Holy Quran, it talks about the jinns they want to, pry into the heavens and steal secret information. And it talks about them, they will associate that information, that little bit of information that they stole, with tarot card readers, with warlocks, witches. They will try to infiltrate your life and imitate what God has given you. They will try to put you in fear, low vibrational states, by having things go wrong in your life, by having people just walk up and tell you things that, may not be true about your life. And even if they are true, then it's only bits and pieces that they can gather about your life, and you should reject that person. It is, it's funny because it says the same thing in the Holy Bible. So, let me get my notes so I can read to you what verses in the Holy Bible where it says the same thing about these jinns, these familiar spirits. Leviticus 19 and 31. Leviticus 20 and 6. Leviticus 20 and 27. Deuteronomy 48, 10 through 12. So these are some of the verses that you can go and look up for yourself what it says about familiar spirits. But I'm going to go a little bit further, and I'm going to read you what it says about familiar spirits. Demonic entities that are believed to be in close association with or serve mediums, sorcerers, or those who practice divination. They are unclean spirits and are forbidden by God. So these spirits that we are fighting against, they're unclean. They're unclean spirits. And we need to treat them as an enemy. So, that's a lot of the reasons why I do the cleanses. That's a lot of reasons why I give you the examples through, what's going on through myself. What I will, entail in my mind that, this is a familiar spirit. Every Thursday, going into Friday, something just goes wrong. Something breaks. Something's not going to work for you. That's a familiar spirit that is attacking you, because it cannot enter. It cannot break your spirit. It's like I said, during the week. I think it was during the week or last week that, I had excuse me. I had a dream about my mother, and whenever I have a dream about my mother, and in this dream, she was, it was like a bunch of light, and I could see her clearly sewing up dolls. So, going into with this kind of knowledge, with this kind of dream that I had, this is something that we pray against. You have to pray against these negative entities to stop them from taking form in your life. When you're dealing with evil, you do not want to go and dress with things that's brand new. You want to be able to know how to cleanse yourself. You want to know how to cleanse your clothing. You want to know how to cleanse your environment, your mind and your body from negative entities and those evil familiar spirits, that have been sent or who have tried to attach themselves to follow you in some kind of way. You want to know how to cleanse that, and that's why, I'm teaching this, spiritual healing channel, spiritually defense from the holy books, from that standpoint, because if you're deviating anywhere else, you're leaving openings so that negative entity can attach itself to, your materialism, your money, anything that you love outside of what God has given you. you know, you're gonna leave that opening for that entity to attach. If you're loving clothing, if you're loving the way that you look, you know, people ask me all the time, you know, why don't you, you know, change your hijabs? Yeah, I do. I only brought a certain amount with me. You know, you don't want to buy something new that an entity can attach itself to. So, you know, I can wash these in bluing, the blue balls, and, you know, nothing can attach itself to me. Nothing can go with me. So since it can attach itself to me in religious garments, in religious garbs, then it'll try to attack my phone. It will try to attack anything that is electronic, you know, to bring me into a low vibrational state, you know, as if, you know, I'm going to lose something that God has given me. That is the attitude that you must have. If God has, you know, given me the money that I'm making from these people and something goes wrong, then I spend it in his cause. I won't be in a low vibrational state. I won't try to hoard it and keep it for myself when there's something that needs to be done. You know, if my car needs to be fixed, you know, I'm not worried about how I look. I think I look fine. I think the 15 scarves that I brought is enough. You know, the clothes that I brought is enough. So, you know, I'm not worried about how people view me, or what they think that I should be doing. I'm worried about this negative entity trying to infiltrate what God has given me, trying to infiltrate, you know, through things happening, all of a sudden breaking, through people trying to attack, through people trying to attach themselves to me as, you know, familiar spirits, and make me do what they want me to do instead of me doing what God wants me to do. And you should feel the same. This is why God gave us the holy books as a defense, so that when we go through certain things in our lives and we recognize this entity trying to attack and attach itself, that we can cleanse it, and we must stay under that umbrella of the Almighty God. And that means prayer, that means prostrating, and that means fasting. So I hope that you have understood how to do battle with these familiar spirits that come in your life. They will flee once you cleanse that negative energy, once you start praying against that negative energy. I know that you're here, but you're not going to stay here today. I'm finna pray you away. If I have to, I'm finna fast you away. Okay, you're not staying here with me. You got to go back to somebody else that's weak mind, and you know, said their mind and body has been fractured by wanting to be a part of the entity. You know, God has separated me from that. So, you know, I hope that this message has entered your mind and your heart, and you've meditated on that. And we're going to use other methods that God has given us to cleanse ourselves from negative energies and entities trying to attach themselves to us. You can reach out to me in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe over all of my platforms. Please book a consultation, book a one-on-one session. Also, you can donate to me and my page in the description below. I'm High Oracle, Reiki Spiritual Healer. Assalamu alaikum.